Hey, good morning and welcome everyone to County Executive Pittman's virtual press conference. This morning, the County Executive will provide updates on school buses, the county's COVID response efforts, and a new digital services grant for small businesses and nonprofits. Today, we're going to change up our order just a little bit. We're going to take questions after each set of updates. As a reminder, please put your name and media affiliation in the chat, and I'll call on folks for questions in that order. And please keep your microphone and camera off unless you are called on to ask or respond to a question. With that, Mr. County Executive.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this morning. I want to start out just by congratulating Gloria Dent, our newest member of our school board, appointed by our county council last night after interviews. I understand there were 4 outstanding candidates, and I know Gloria well. She's on our planning advisory board, so she understands finances, county finances very well, and our capital budget as well, which is going to be useful for her on the school board. And we talked particularly this morning about working together on closing the opportunity gap in our schools and the work that the county is doing to get and will be doing to get an increase in our kindergarten readiness as kids go into school. So looking forward to working with her. I want to talk about school buses because it's the issue that I think my staff and I have been the most focused on in the last week. I know that the school board and the administration over there have been working on it nonstop, tirelessly since the first day of school and before. I did post a Facebook statement, social media statement over the weekend because we had just met with 20-some public officials, my staff and the school system staff, talking about the challenges and trying to figure out if there are things outside of those contracts that the school system has with those bus companies to assist. So the ultimate solution clearly is that the contractors that operate those school buses need staff. And so we are calling on anybody and everybody who has a CDL license, is certified, or is interested in becoming certified to drive a school bus to please step up. Our workforce development team is actually meeting with the school district, I believe today, to talk about expediting some of that. We had the state Motor Vehicles Administration on our call on Saturday talking about expediting that process and getting people into the pipeline. There are some already in the pipeline, but we face a major challenge with companies, Amazon and others, who are also in need of drivers with CDL licenses, actively recruiting our bus drivers. So we've had conversations and are continuing to research incentives, possibility of using federal ARP money, the recovery plan money, to provide the kinds of incentives that our competitors are providing to keep our school bus drivers on the job, bring some back who we lost potentially, and bring new ones on board. In the meantime, we are looking at anything that we can do outside of the school system to assist. The first thing that has happened is through our Office of Transportation. We do have public transportation, not as comprehensive around the county as we would like, but 3 lines are going to be expanding service. So the Arundel yellow, the gold in Edgewater, yellow mostly around Annapolis, gold in Edgewater, gold on College Parkway, are adding three large vehicles to accommodate additional students. These would be students 12 and over who can ride the buses alone, can ride public transportation alone, as well as adding 3 additional larger vehicles and drivers. That was the most that we could come up with that are available to be on standby at Westville Mall, primarily to serve the Annapolis cluster, because that is the cluster where the contractor is falling the farthest short in drivers and routes. So it's not acceptable for students to be stranded, for parents to be dropping off students, expecting them to be picked up by bus and finding out otherwise. Please go to aacounty.org/buses to get the latest updates. We have Bob Moser here who can talk about the outreach and that's being done to connect with those parents, text messages, emails that are impacted so that people know the status of the routes that their kids are supposed to be on. But we will continue as a county Our partners in the city are helping as well to do everything possible outside of that system to provide at least temporary relief. My team is also doing research about what other counties are doing, working on communication systems to promote carpooling through apps to connect churches that have buses and other nonprofits that have buses and drivers with parents in need. That has to go on outside of the school system. And of course, it's temporary, but that's what we're working on. So let me stop there and see if there's any questions about that. I have our Office of Transportation Director, Ramon Robinson, who can explain more about these routes. And we have Bob Moser, of course, from Anne Arundel County Public Schools.
Thank you, Mr. County Executive. So again, we're going to start out with questions just relating to the bus situation. And we're going to start out with Rachel from the Capitol.
Hi, thanks so much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, wonderful. Well, that's an improvement over last time. So first I want to make sure I'm clear on the support you just described. So you're expanding service on the gold and yellow route by adding 3 buses serving those routes. And then there will also be 3 buses standing by at Mall.
Yes, but let Ramon Robinson jump in here with any explanation of that.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. So these care routes that we operate right now, what we're doing is we're putting larger vehicles, so 26 seat vehicles on these routes. So that's for the AA Yellow, the AA Go Edgewater, and the AA Go College Parkway, as the county executive described. And then what we will do is we will have 3 additional vehicles at the Westfield Mall to help for capacity. So let's just assume that we get the students coming into the mall, they can then access the yellow route, or they can access a tripper depending on the loads to get them to connect to Annapolis High School.
Gotcha.
All right, next up, we've got John Frenet on Annapolis.
I guess this is for the county executive. I know that this problem is not unique to Anne Arundel County or Maryland or pretty much anywhere. Has there been any discussion with the state about possibly mobilizing the National Guard to drive any of these buses? I know Massachusetts has gone that way, and it may be a possibility. Has there been any discussion with the state?
Not specifically about National Guard that I'm aware of. I and others have been. And some of the regional county executives, we've talked about this and asking the state to address it in any way that they can. But haven't heard about the National Guard idea. I've read about it, but I don't know that it's been discussed with the state.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Lowell, we're going to get to you in a moment. We're going to circle back to Rachel. She had a quick follow-up.
Yeah, thank you so much. These are obviously, some responses from the county to the situation. I guess how much better would the county have been in a position to respond to this with, more notice up to a month ago? Speaking to, one of the contractors, they said they were in constant communication with the school system about that. So I guess just, is there any frustration at the county administration level over, how this was communicated and the county's ability to respond and the notice provided, given that it seems like this is something folks were aware of, during the summer, a while back.
Yeah, it probably would have been a good conversation to have during the summer. I can understand that normally these are contracts between the school system and those contractors, and the responsibility to basically deliver on those contracts is clearly with the contractors. I think if people knew that it was going to be this bad, then the next step would normally be to reach out and see if there's anything that can be done to help. But I know that the focus of the administration, the school administration, was working with those contractors to deliver on those contracts. We're all thinking outside the box because it's a crisis and the crisis has hit. Had we been asked a month ago before it was a crisis, I don't know what we would have come up with that's any different from what we've come up with, because we have also got CDL driver issues. As you know, we had issues with trash pickup because one of our vendors that does certain parts of the county had driver shortages, and it took us some time to be able to get some of those routes temporarily moved over to other contractors. Yeah, I mean, always in retrospect, we might have done better if there had been conversations a month or two ago. But I don't know that anybody knew that it was going to be this bad.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we've got Lowell Melser from WBAL. If anybody else has a school bus related question, please put that in the chat. Otherwise, we'll go to COVID updates after this.
Okay, good morning. Just had a quick question. My other question was already answered. Thank you. But I just wanted to know if you could clarify, what is the exact reason that this is happening? Is it that unemployment issues, or you mentioned Amazon? Are you seeing that these drivers are being poached for better paying jobs, and that's why this is happening? I was wondering if you could just clarify why exactly the county is finding itself in this situation with so many drivers missing. Thank you.
Well, when there was no school and the companies were not delivering kids to school, many of these drivers went and found other work. And so they had to either bring them back or bring new people on. So there was a loss of drivers during the pandemic to other companies. But yes, I mean, I have heard anecdotal evidence, stories of companies literally waiting outside the lots where the buses are parked and stopping drivers and offering them jobs and incentives to move over to other companies. So yes, active competition among companies for CDL drivers, and that includes bus drivers.
All right, not seeing any other questions on buses for now. We're going to kick things over to COVID updates. Mr. County Executive.
So some of you may have read a column that I sent to the Capitol that was published this morning. I think I wrote it on Sunday. There were a couple of points that I was trying to make that I want to make again. One is that we have two crises going on related to the pandemic. One is, or two goals. One is to save lives, and the other is to reduce the division and distrust in our communities for reasons apart from saving lives, but in that the division is unhealthy in itself. Dr. George Everly, who is from Severna Park, world-renowned psychologist who works on disaster recovery around the world, was very clear at the beginning of this, and he told us division delays recovery, and that's what we're seeing. It's been, we as government face the same challenge that employers face, that we want employees vaccinated, we want everyone vaccinated, and at the same time, we want to keep people in our workforces moving forward together. We don't want to lose good employees, and that's what everybody faces. I have a meeting scheduled on Thursday morning. Dr. Kalyanaraman will be with me, with leaders of our chambers of commerce, the Annapolis and Anne Arundel, as well as the other 4 in the county. And it's a conversation about the federal announcement, the president's announcement that employers over 100 are going to have to get employees vaccinated or tested regularly, and to share our stories with one another about our efforts. I know a lot of companies have made efforts to get people vaccinated and dealt with some of the resistance that's out there. So that's one track that we are going to be accelerating, partly because of the president's announcement, but partly because we'd already started it here and it was the right thing to do. And we know that a lot of our businesses have been struggling with the same challenge. The other thing I want to note is that people in the healthcare field Our fire department, emergency medical technicians, our team at the health department are exhausted. I was talking to a firefighter at the 9/11 memorial event that we did on Saturday, who described to me what it's like in the fire department, where folks are exhausted. Some are calling in sick. Some are working, he said, 40-hour shifts where they're being asked to stay over, waiting at the emergency room for hours and hours and hours with the ambulance because there's no space. And he was, I mean, he has been pleading publicly, and I'm pleading publicly for people to set aside any politics related to this and to do what our parents and our grandparents did in previous pandemics and get vaccinated, wear masks in public places where you can't distance indoors, and provide some relief to these folks who are just month after month after month being stretched to the limit. And I just hope that people will put themselves in the shoes of these healthcare workers and these employees who are being asked to do more than is humanly possible to address the unvaccinated folks who are getting sick, and this pandemic that should be over by now, because we have the vaccination to end it. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Kalyanaraman, who may have some additional thoughts about where we stand. And you know, the good news, which is that cases have leveled off, dropped somewhat in the last few days. We hope that continues, but we still need to do the hard work to get vaccinated for the next variant that might come along, and to put this one to bed. So, Dr. K.
Thank you, County Executive. Yeah, we're. I appreciate your words. We're seeing with COVID that our hospitalizations are kind of holding steady around 50 to 60. We'll talk about Anne Arundel Medical Center in a minute. Our case rate is pretty stable around 17 to 18. That's still a significant amount of spread. Most importantly, we saw that there were 14 deaths last week. That is the most we've seen in a week since February, so 7 months ago. And that's both sad and not surprising. It's what we see after we see a lot of people hospitalized. Because our hospitals do such a good job, they're able to care for a lot of people and get a lot of them to recovery, but not everybody. That is the whole issue with COVID. Hospitalizations are still much more likely in the unvaccinated folk, but because we have so much spread, even those who are vaccinated, they're a much lower risk, but they are getting infected, and some of them are even getting hospitalized. It's really great to see that 75% of everybody who's eligible has gotten at least one dose, but that's still 25% to go. And that's a lot of people. That's just the eligible folks. Overall in our county, 64% of people 64% of people have gotten a shot. That's about 2/3. That means 1/3 of the people still no vaccine protection. And what that's leading to is it's leading to our case rate and our hospitalizations. Anne Arundel Medical Center announced that they're delaying a select number of elective surgeries that would have longer hospital stays. They're doing this to make sure that they can handle the increased emergency room and inpatient volume due to COVID. We can decrease that by having folks who are eligible who are not yet vaccinated get their vaccine. COVID is a vaccine preventable death. I'm going to repeat that. COVID is a vaccine preventable death. These vaccines are extremely effective. Even with Delta, they decrease hospitalization. And please protect yourself and get vaccinated. At the same time, everybody has a positive obligation to prevent the spread of COVID. And that means getting vaccinated or testing if you are not yet vaccinated. When you get vaccinated, you prevent the spread of it. And if you choose not to, then you should get tested when you're around others who are unmasked and you don't know their vaccination status, such as at sporting events, restaurants, gatherings, and the like. If your workplace isn't fully masking, you should get tested weekly. You know, I get asked a lot, when are we going to get over this? Well, we're going to get over this when we all do everything we need to do. We know what we need to do. We need to get vaccinated. But for those who aren't, you need to get tested. And once again, given our rate of spread, it is important for people to mask in indoor public settings. And I think this leads to what we're seeing generally is more frustration, more anxiety, more anger. We want COVID to go away. And at the same time, we know that it's spreading. And it's really hard to find your balance when the situation changes each week. And so know that others are struggling as well. It's always been important to connect with family and friends, even more so now. And if you want to talk to someone or need help 24/7, you can call the county's warm line at 410-768-5522. That I'll turn it over to you, Jeff.
Thank you, Dr. Kalyana-Raman. First up, John Frenaye, Ion Annapolis.
Hi, this is a question for the county executive, I guess, on the bonuses that are for the vaccination bonuses. And I'm not sure whether this is a miscommunication or not, but I have learned from a couple of non-union employees of the county that believe that they are not entitled to bonuses. And I was under the impression that this was pretty much every employee in the county, as well as contractors that were, you know, they had some, you know, requirements for contractors. Can you clarify that?
Yeah, every employee who has worked, there's a minimum number of hours for contract employees, and I can't remember what it is. It's a very small number. So, but even contract employees all they have to do is register, and the registration portal actually opened yesterday to show their vaccination status as vaccinated, and they will receive $1,000 from our federal ARPA funds.
But that is for absolutely every employee that is considered we'll say a W-2 employee of the county is eligible for that bonus, correct?
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Next up, Rachel from Capitol.
Hi, yeah, thank you. So I had a question for Dr. Kalyana-Raman, and I was just kind of wondering sort of what you have heard from schools so far. I know that they are releasing their data in terms of, you know, how many cases they've seen on Wednesdays, so that's tomorrow. But, you know, is there anything that you can say about, you know, what you've observed so far and what you've observed about sort of some of the schools' abilities to do things like, you know, provide 3 feet of distance between students?
Yeah, so what we're seeing is, and we partner extremely closely with the school system on the contact tracing and understanding which students and staff need to be quarantined and which don't. I think a really important thing to know is that people who are vaccinated do not need to quarantine if they're a close contact, as long as they don't have any symptoms. And so what we're seeing is that in 7th through 12th grade, those grades where kids are eligible to get vaccinated, there's far fewer kids who need to be quarantined so far. That said, there's a lot of children who do need to be quarantined. We're talking anywhere from 50 to 100 a day. And the only way we're going to get that down is by folks getting vaccinated. So really implore you to get your kids vaccinated if they are eligible. It's going to protect them. It's going to keep them in the classroom, and it's going to keep them engaged, and it's going to keep allow parents to go to work. I certainly know that it's extremely disruptive to have to keep your kid at home with a quarantine for a week or 10 days, depending on the day. This is how you can get some more of that stability that we were just talking about.
Next
just
up,
real quick.
Hey, Rachel, I apologize. We can follow up offline, but we're running short on time here. Rob Lang, WBAL.
Couple of quick questions and good morning. First, to the county executive, regarding employees vaccination, do you have a percentage, and forgive me if this was already addressed, a percentage of employees who are vaccinated, how many employees you're still trying to get vaccinated?
We do not have good numbers. Some departments have done surveys, but surveys are not completely accurate. So We expect it to be pretty close to the same as the rest of the population. But one of the beauties of this carrot approach is that we will know. They will, to get their $1,000, they need to show their status. So we will have numbers, and then we will also have numbers over time, so we know when they got vaccinated to show whether or not this incentive is having the effect that we expect it to have.
All right. And to Dr. Keller-Ranaman, you obviously heard about Anne Arundel Medical Center's decision to postpone elective surgeries because of COVID beds, those that require an overnight stay. What concerns do you have about that in terms of hospitalization and the broader issue of having enough hospital beds? I know that was the big fear last year. Are we coming to another area where there may become an issue towards the fall and winter?
Well, that is absolutely our concern. We're seeing the first glimmer of that in the decision that Anne Arundel Medical Center made. And that's why it's critical for people to get vaccinated. This is only going to get, in terms of spread, is only going to get worse during cold and flu season. And that's why we're pushing hard now. And we're pushing hard also to get everything set up for when 5 to 11-year-olds are eligible as well.
All right. Thank you both.
Right, next up, Lily from the Capitol.
Hi. So I guess you kind of already answered this, county executive, but if this incentive has recently opened for that $1,000, have people put in their proof of vaccination yet? And if so, do you know how many people have uploaded that?
I was told yesterday, and it had just opened, the first 1,000 plus had come in, but they're coming in rapidly. So we're just getting started with it.
Okay. And then also, do you have an estimate on how much tornado damage was caused 2 weeks ago? I think that was. Is there any formal numbers?
So we don't have numbers. However, the FEMA and MEMA were here yesterday, working with our Office of Emergency Management, going through and starting to put that together. But no, we don't have them.
Do you know when they might come in?
I don't. Is there anybody here from OEM who might have that?
Hi, yeah, this is Casey from OEM. We do not have an estimate as to how long it will take them to complete the damage assessment. Currently, it's ongoing, so we're suggesting, we're encouraging the residents who are affected to continue to contact their insurance companies if they haven't already, and to fill out our damage assessment survey, which is on our website.
All right, next up, Rita, WNAV, and then we're going to move on to the digital services grants.
Yeah, Dr. Keller-Ranaman, do you have any inside information as to when kids 12 and younger will be permitted to be vaccinated?
We're hearing that that Pfizer will be releasing their data either at the end of this month or sometime in October. But beyond that, I can't offer a more certain date.
Can you just repeat how many kids a day in our county need to be quarantined daily?
So just based on last week, it was approximately 50 to 100, but those were just the first few days. We'll have more certain data this week with a full week back in school.
All right, thank you.
We're going to wrap up now with an announcement about digital services grants. Mr. County Executive.
So on a more positive note, and remembering that everything that we do to end this pandemic is to prevent our economy from being hit the way it was with restrictions in the past. But thanks to federal American Rescue Plan Act funds coming through the state of Maryland through Commerce, our Office of Economic Development Corporation is announcing the opening of a new portal for a new grant program. It will open on Monday at 9 a.m. And the program is called the Digital Services Relief Grant Program. And it is to provide funding for small companies between 2 and 20 employees to get grants up to $10,000 each to acquire digital services for marketing, e-commerce, whatever it is to help build their businesses and help their businesses to recover. The the portal will be open only until October 1st, Friday at 5 p.m. October 1st. There is $500,000 available for these grants. So we expect to see a lot of applications for this, and we expect it to help these businesses. And if there are questions, we have Rosa Cruz here for that from Economic Development. But I think we're going to be closing up for additional questions. But I also just want to mention that in addition to that, the fair, Anne Arundel County Fair, opens tomorrow, and it'll be open through Sunday. So I will be there 6 o'clock tomorrow night, opening ceremonies, and I look forward to seeing thousands and thousands of Anne Arundel County residents celebrating agriculture and other great outdoor activities at the fairgrounds with their families. And then I also want to announce that Hispanic Heritage Month starts today and goes for a month. We have a list of activities we'll have on social media to celebrate that, and that starting tomorrow, or today at sunset through tomorrow, tomorrow at sunset. Got it. Thanks. Is Yom Kippur, and so we'll be posting about that as well on social media.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. County Executive. We'll see you all next week.